In the heart of the vast, uncharted expanse known as the Shadowmoor, there stood an ancient stone archway, half consumed by the encroaching forest. For centuries, the archway was a site of superstition and dread among the few who dared to venture near. Locals spoke of a being that dwelled within the archway, a skeletal figure known as the Hollow Watcher, who was said to guard the entrance to another realm, one of darkness and despair. Decades ago, a small town named Eldershade lay on the periphery of the Shadowmoor. It was a place of tight-knit communities and deep-rooted traditions. The town prospered quietly until one fateful night when a group of adventurous teenagers dared each other to venture into the heart of the forest, where the archway stood. Among them was a curious and brave soul named Thomas. Thomas had always been fascinated by the lore surrounding the Hollow Watcher. Unlike his friends, he didn't believe in the supernatural, chalking up the legends to mere superstition. Armed with flashlights and false bravado, the group made their way through the dense woods, the moonlight barely piercing the thick canopy above. As they approached the archway, an eerie silence enveloped them. The night air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to lengthen and twist unnaturally. The archway loomed before them, a monolithic structure covered in moss and ancient ruins that glowed faintly in the darkness. One of Thomas's friends, Sarah, dared him to step through the archway. Never one to back down from a challenge, Thomas took a deep breath and walked forward. As he passed under the arch, a sudden chill ran down his spine, and the world around him seemed to distort. The air grew thick, and an overwhelming sense of dread washed over him. On the other side, Thomas found himself in a twisted version of the forest he knew. The trees were gnarled and lifeless, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The ground was covered in a thick, black mist that seemed to cling to his legs. In the distance, he saw a tall, skeletal figure with hollow eyes and elongated limbs, its bony fingers ending in sharp claws. It was the Hollow Watcher. The Watcher's hollow eyes glowed with an eerie light, and it moved with a fluid grace, its skeletal form unnervingly silent. Thomas's breath caught in his throat as the creature approached, its presence suffocating and malevolent. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to obey. The Hollow Watcher extended a bony hand, and in that moment, Thomas understood the true nature of the being. It was not merely a guardian but a collector of souls, drawn to those who dared to trespass its realm. The Watcher's touch was icy cold, and as it wrapped its fingers around Thomas's arm, he felt his strength draining away. Desperate to escape, Thomas mustered all his remaining willpower. He stumbled backward through the archway, collapsing on the forest floor. His friends, who had been watching in terror, rushed to his side. Thomas was pale and trembling, his eyes wide with fear. From that night on, Thomas was never the same. He was haunted by visions of the Hollow Watcher, its hollow eyes ever present in his dreams. He spoke of the dark realm beyond the archway, warning others to stay away, but his warnings were often dismissed as the ravings of a madman. As the years passed, Eldershade fell into decline. People began to disappear, lured into the forest by an unseen force. The archway became a forbidden place, its legend growing darker with each retelling. Thomas, now an old man, became the town's reclusive hermit, living in constant fear of the Hollow Watcher's return. One stormy night, as thunder rumbled in the distance and lightning illuminated the darkened sky, Thomas felt a familiar chill. He knew his time had come. With a heavy heart, he made his way to the archway, drawn by a compulsion he couldn't resist. The Hollow Watcher awaited him, its hollow eyes glowing with a sinister light. Thomas stood before the creature, accepting his fate. As the Watcher's skeletal hand reached out once more, Thomas closed his eyes and whispered a final prayer. The last thing he felt was the cold, unyielding grip of the Hollow Watcher, pulling him into the darkness. The next morning, the townsfolk found the archway early silent, and Thomas was nowhere to be found. Eldershade's legend of the Hollow Watcher lived on, a cautionary tale for generations to come. The ancient archway, shrouded in mystery and fear, remained a gateway to a realm of eternal night, guarded by the Hollow Watcher, a sentinel of the shadows, ever vigilant, ever waiting.